Hello, friends, and welcome to our in-depth study through the Book of Ezra. Today, we're looking at chapter 6, where the temple rebuilding reaches completion under King Darius's affirmation, leading to dedication and celebration. In this chapter, we pick up from the tension of chapter 5, where Governor Tatanai had sent a letter to King Darius questioning the Jews' authority to rebuild. Darius orders a search of the royal archives, discovers Cyrus's original decree, and not only confirms it but expands support for the project. With royal backing, the work accelerates, the temple is finished after about 4 years, and the people dedicate it with joy, followed by observing Passover for the first time since the exile. It's a triumphant resolution to the physical restoration phase, emphasizing God's faithfulness through unexpected channels. The big idea for this lesson is God completes temple through royal decree. This big idea captures how God uses a Persian king's edict to bring the rebuilding to fruition, overcoming past obstacles. In the broader book of Ezra, this fits as the climax of the first half, focused on the temple's reconstruction. After the return, initial efforts, opposition, and restart, chapter 6 shows fulfillment, paving the way for the second half's spiritual reforms under Ezra. It reinforces the book's theme that God sovereignly directs history and rulers to accomplish his purposes for his people. To support this, we'll examine 3 main events from the text. First, Darius's search and discovery of Cyrus's decree. Second, Darius's command for support and protection. And third, the temple's completion, dedication, and Passover celebration. Let's begin with the first event, Darius's search and discovery of Cyrus's decree. We'll read the relevant verses from Ezra chapter 6, verses 1 through 5 in the New International Version. King Darius then issued an order, and they searched in the archives stored in the treasury at Babylon. A scroll was found in the citadel of Ecbatana in the province of Media, on which this was written. A record. In the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place to present sacrifices, and let its foundations be laid. It is to be 60 cubits high and 60 cubits wide, with 3 courses of large stones and 1 of timbers. The costs are to be paid by the royal treasury. Also, the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon, are to be returned to their places in the temple in Jerusalem. They are to be deposited in the house of God. Now, let's observe what's happening here. Darius responds promptly to Tatanai's letter by ordering a search not just in Babylon, but extending to Ecbatana, a summer capital in Media, modern Iran, where the scroll is found. The decree recaps Cyrus's original permission: rebuild the temple for sacrifices, specifics on dimensions, about 90 feet high and wide, smaller than Solomon's, funding from the treasury, and return of articles. A cubit is roughly 18 inches, so this was a substantial but modest structure compared to the original. To explain and interpret this event, the royal archives were extensive collections of clay tablets and scrolls in Persian capitals, preserving official documents for continuity in the empire's administration. Ecbatana being the find spot makes sense, as Cyrus might have issued it there during travels. Darius, known historically for reorganizing the empire into satrapies, large administrative provinces, and promoting justice, acts with integrity by honoring his predecessor's word. Biblically, this echoes Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse. God uses this discovery to validate the Jews' claims, turning potential disaster into divine favor. It contrasts the adversarial letter in chapter 4, showing how truth prevails when God intervenes. This wasn't luck, it was providence, affirming the prophet's calls in chapter 5. Tying this back to the big idea, God completes temple through royal decree, we see it starting with Darius's edict to search, leading to rediscovery that reignites progress. For personal application, consider how lost documents in your life, maybe forgotten promises or past encouragements, can resurface to confirm your path. Like an old journal entry reminding you of a goal, God can bring reminders at key moments. This challenges how we think. In the empty places in your life, such as uncertainty about direction, trust that God uncovers what's needed to move forward. Let's turn now to the second event, Darius's command for support and protection. Here are the key verses from Ezra chapter 6, verses 6 through 12. Now then, Tatanai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai, and you other officials of that province, Stay away from there. Do not interfere with the work on this temple of God. Let the governor of the Jews and the Jewish elders rebuild this house of God on its site. Moreover, I hereby decree what you are to do for these elders of the Jews in the construction of this house of God. The expenses of these men are to be fully paid out of the royal treasury from the revenues of Trans-Euphrates, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, male lambs for burnt offerings to the God of heaven, and wheat, salt, wine, and olive oil, as requested by the priests in Jerusalem, must be given them daily without fail, so that they may offer sacrifices pleasing to the God of heaven, and pray for the well-being of the king and his sons. Furthermore, I decree that if anyone changes this edict, a beam is to be pulled from their house, and they are to be impaled on it. And for this crime their house is to be made a pile of rubble. May God, who has caused his name to dwell there, overthrow any king or people who lifts a hand to change this decree or to destroy this temple in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have decreed it. Let it be carried out with diligence. Observing the text, Darius addresses Tattenai and others directly, ordering them to cease interference and actively support the Jews. He mandates funding from local taxes in Trans-Euphrates, the satrapy including Judah, covering construction costs and daily sacrificial needs like animals, grains, and oils. He adds severe penalties for violation: impalement on a beam from one's own house, turning it to rubble. He invokes the God of heaven and curses any who oppose, signing off for diligent execution. Interpreting this, Darius goes beyond confirmation. He amplifies Cyrus's decree by providing ongoing supplies and protection, ensuring no delays. The God of Heaven title was common in Persian correspondence, showing respect for local deities to maintain peace. Darius even asks for prayers for himself. But biblically, it's God directing the king to bless his people, fulfilling Isaiah 44-45, where Cyrus, and by extension successors, serves God's plan. The harsh penalties reflect ancient Near Eastern legal style, like Hammurabi's code, deterring sabotage. This command reverses opposition, turning adversaries into facilitators, and accelerates completion. Connecting this to the big idea, God completes temple through royal decree by having Darius not only endorse but enforce support, removing barriers. Think of it like a sports league commissioner overturning a suspension and providing resources for a team's comeback. It changes the game. For application, this speaks to times when higher authorities intervene in your favor, like a boss approving a project after initial resistance. In the empty places in your life, perhaps financial strains or relational blocks, expect God to decree breakthroughs through unexpected allies. Let's examine the third event, the temple's completion, dedication, and Passover celebration. We'll read from Ezra chapter 6, verses 13 through 22. Then, because of the decree King Darius had sent, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates carried it out with diligence. So the elders of the Jews continued to build and prosper under the preaching of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah, a descendant of Iddo. They finished building the temple according to the command of the God of Israel and the decrees of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, kings of Persia. The temple was completed on the 3rd day of the month Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. Then the people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the rest of the exiles, celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of this house of God they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 male lambs, and, as a sin offering for all Israel, 12 male goats, one for each of the tribes of Israel. And they installed the priests in their divisions and the Levites in their groups for the service of God at Jerusalem, according to what is written in the book of Moses. On the 14th day of the 1st month, the exiles celebrated the Passover. The priests and Levites had purified themselves and were all ceremonially clean. The Levites slaughtered the Passover lamb for all the exiles, for their relatives the priests, and for themselves. So the Israelites who had returned from the exile ate it, together with all who had separated themselves from the unclean practices of their Gentile neighbors, in order to seek the Lord, the God of Israel. For 7 days they celebrated with joy the festival of unleavened bread, because the Lord had filled them with joy by turning the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he assisted them in the work on the house of God, the God of Israel. Observing closely, officials complied diligently, and with prophetic support, The temple finishes in Adar, February to March, 516 BC, about 70 years after destruction. Dedication involves massive sacrifices: 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and 12 goats, symbolizing all tribes. Priests and Levites are organized per Moses' law. Then, in Nisan, March to April, they celebrate Passover, slaughtering lambs, purifying, and including seekers from neighbors, followed by Unleavened Bread Festival, attributing joy to God turning the king's heart, here called King of Assyria, as a general term for Mesopotamian rulers. To explain and interpret, completion marks fulfillment of Jeremiah's 70-year prophecy. Dedication echoes Solomon's but scaled down, focusing on joy and sin offerings for atonement. Passover commemorates Exodus deliverance, fitting for exiles, second Exodus. Purification and inclusion of separated Gentiles hint at spiritual renewal. Artaxerxes is mentioned anachronistically, perhaps for later reinforcements. This event shifts from building to worship, showing the temple's purpose, encountering God. It's a high point, crediting God for royal favor. This event ties to the big idea. God completes temple through royal decree, culminating in this finished work and worship. For personal application, picture a long renovation project finally done, celebrated with a housewarming. The relief and joy mirror spiritual milestones. This challenges what we believe. In the empty places in your life, like incomplete healing, believe God brings closure through his orchestrated means. In conclusion, let's restate the big idea. God completes temple through royal decree. We've seen this through the three main events: Darius's search and discovery of Cyrus's decree, Darius's command for support and protection, and the temple's completion, dedication, and Passover celebration. These illustrate how divine sovereignty uses human edicts to achieve restoration. Reiterating personal application, this text challenges how we think, believe, and behave. It reshapes thinking by seeing kings and circumstances as God's tools. It strengthens belief in his timely completions after waits. And it calls us to behave with celebratory worship, like the exiles' feasts. In the empty places in your life, whether unfinished goals or spiritual lulls, anticipate God's decrees leading to joyful fulfillment. May he plant deeply in your barren places, yielding abundance you can't yet imagine. Now, take a look at the show notes for questions to reflect on. You can use them in your small group or just take a few moments to reflect on your own. If you like this study, please like and subscribe for more just like it. Until next time, grace and peace.